Okay, good morning. So we've now finished Siman Kuf Pei Aleph. That was the halachas of Mayim Achronim, and we saw that the Mechaber in Siv Aleph said Mayim Achronim Chayva, but in Siv Yud Yesh Nagim She'ein Little Mayim Achronim. Some people don't do it because there's no Melach Sodomis, etc., etc. And we concluded that it's a nice thing to do, especially if you are an Istanis. You wash your hands regularly, then there's more reason to do it. But those are the two opinions regarding Mayim Achronim. Now we're going on to Siman Kuf Pei Beis. We're talking about benching ala Hakos, which is another halacha which is not always so well kept. Let's see the background. Siman Kuf Pei Beis Din Kos Birchas Hamazon, etc. Yesh Omrim, says the Mechaber in Sif Aleph. Yesh Omrim Shebirchas Hamazon tu'un Kos, that whenever you bench you need a kos. Afilu b'yachid. Even if you are eating on your own, it's a Wednesday lunchtime. You're having a sandwich for lunch. You need a kos for birchas hamazon. V'tzarich lachzar al olav, and you got to go and find a kos with wine. V'lo yochel im ein lo kos, and don't eat if you haven't got a kos. Levarich olav im hu mitzape ve'efshe sheyelei. If it's if it's possible for you to find one, then just make sure you find one. Afilu im tzarich laver zman achila achas, even if it means missing that meal. V'lefizeh. Im shnaim oichlim yachad, if two people are sitting together eating, tzarich lekachas kol echad kos lebirchas hamazon. Each one needs their own kos for birchas hamazon. So that's one opinion. So that even if a yachid is sitting there having his lunch, he needs a kos for birchas hamazon. V'yesh omrim she'ena tu'una kos ela b'shleisha. There are those who say that you only need a kos if you have a zimun, if you are three. V'yesh omrim she'ena tu'una kos klal afilu b'shleisha. And third opinion, even three does not require a kos. Says the Ramah, Mikol Mokum mitzvah min hamuvcha levarach ala kos. But certainly it's a mitzvah min hamuvcha to bench with a kos. Let's see the Mishnah Berurah. Sif Katan Aleph tu'una kos. Sheberoiv, why the Chazal institute benching ala kos? Sheberoiv habrachos she'tiknu Chazal tiknum l'sada ala kos. When Chazal instituted, when they various mitzvahs, we will use a kos. For example, you had a bris. Well, the mitzvah is bris milah. So why are you making a bracha? Chazal instituted that you make it a bracha ala kos, that mitzvah under a chuppah. There's so many occasions. It's a form of praise HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to arrange our praises around or over a kos. Like the pasuk says, kos Yeshuas Esa of Hashem Hashem Ekra. I'll raise my kos and then give praise to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So that's what's going on over here. You've got the mitzvah birchas hamazon, and therefore we, like in many other mitzvahs, we express our praises sort of over a kos. V'lo yochel sivkat and base or kamod in havdalah b'reish sadivav, and so too, like we'll get to that the mitzvah Hashem in Hilchos Havdalah in Siman Reish Sadivav, that if you can't find wine, then you got to try and find. You got to look. And if you think you're going to get a kos tomorrow, you haven't got any wine or grape juice, and the stores are shut, and there'll be one tomorrow morning or something like that. So you have to just skip Melava Malka and wait for a kos tomorrow. He argues the Mishum kos to birchas hamazon einim lo melechol. For a kos, for benching, no one says you should stop eating, you should hold back from eating. For loidami lahavdalah is different to havdalah, ayin sham. But bihagra mashma gamkein to maskim im Magen Avraham, he agrees with the Magen Avraham. Im shnaim oichlim, and therefore the Mechaber said, if two people, according to the first shitta of the Mechaber, if two people are eating, each one needs their own kos. To b'shleisha v'yoseh shemezamnin yachad, because when you have three together, echad mevarech al kos u'moitzias kulam. One person is motzi the others. Like we find with zimun. Avol b'shnayim, the mitzvah lechalek, that each one is doing their own birchas hamazon. Ve'ein echad motzias chaverei. Im kein tzorach kol echad gam kein. Gam kos b'fnei atzmos. So just like they're doing their own benching, so too they need their own kos. Dalet. So this is going on the Ramah. So in the Mechaber you got three opinions. The first opinion is a yachid does birchas hamazon ala kos. The second opinion is dafka for three, and the third opinion is even three doesn't really need it. And the Ramah weighs in and says mitzvah amuvcha levarach ala kos. And on that, the Mishnah Berurah Sifkat and Dalet says Ratzaloma the af l'dei zu she'ein ton kos klal. Even according to the third opinion of the Mechaber, who says ein tu'una kos klal, even with three, Hainu she'ein bo chiyuv. That just simply means that there's no obligation to do it. Avol kula alma moedim de mitzvah namuvcha levarach al hakos. Everyone agrees it's preferred. Im yesh lo yaim bebeso, if he has wine at home. V'hinei ha'mechaber lo echriya bein hades. The mechaber just presents the three opinions, but he's not machriya. He sort of side with any of them. V'das rashal u'bach lahachmed de brechas hamazon sorech kos medina. The Bach and the Marshal, they say that medina you need a kos for benching. U'minag ha'olim lahokil b'zeh kedas hashlishis. The minhag ha'olim, however, is to be makel like the third opinion of the mechaber, shelo lechaza achakos, and even with a zimun of 3, you don't need to use a kos. Imloi kashiyesh l'layin yayin l'sham mashkin to chamar medina b'beisa. Unless you have got wine or chamar medina, the local beverage in your house. And because in that situation where there is plenty of wine available, then it's a mitzvah namuvcha, even according to the third opinion of the mechaber. That's dafka if you're with 3. Aval the inyan yochid mekilim kama achrenim legamri v'ayin lekam b'soif sif beis b'haga, and check out the Ramah at the end. So just to summarize, the mechaber brings 3 opinions about the obligation of benching with a kos of yayin. The first opinion is that even a yachid should do it. The second opinion is only if there's 3, there is a chiyuv to do it. And the third opinion is that ein tu'una kos klal, even b'shleisha, that even if you're 3 people, there's no chiyuv to do it. However, the Mishnah Berurah explains that the Ramah is telling us that even according to the third opinion, which says there's no obligation to have a kos with 3 people, it is still a preferred course of action. It's a mitzvah minamavcha to do it, and we only make with noeg not to for a yochid. But if you've got 3, one should try and do it if you do have wine at home. Okay, says the halacha base. Kos birchas hamazon eine ela shel yain. So when we say you bench ala kos, what does that mean? It says dafka wine. V'loi misham mashkim, not other drinks. Afilu kavos sedos alem. Even if that was the drink that you were having during the meal, that's not enough. V'im ein yain matzu b'osamokim. If you haven't got wine in that place, v'hasheichar oishar mashkin have a chamar medina, and people drink other drinks, beer or other things, then that will become chamar medina. Chutz, mevarchen alem. You can use that. Interesting. You bench on a beer or something like that at the end of benching. Chutz min hamayim. Apart from water, water could never be used, I guess because it's considered so sort of basic, it would not be appropriate. And that which we are noyek, says the Ramah, to make brachas hamazon on sheicha, on beer, don't protest against them. Because at the end of the days, there are those who say you don't need to have a kos at all. The main chamar medina is beer. And that is the drink you would be kover, because that's what you'd have during the meal. Even though there is wine available, there's no real mitzvah. It's motzu. So I'm so sorry. Even though it's available, it's not called motzu, which means like readily available, because wine is expensive. And therefore, every time you have bread, which again in those days, I think we eat bread less nowadays. But in those days that was your mainstay. So to have a kos of wine at every single time you eat, that's going to become expensive. Omnom, it's certainly preferred to use wine over sheichar. When the person is on his own eating bread to make a bracha of wine, not to actually hold the cup if you're on your own eating bread and you're benching. Rather, you just put it down on the table. Says the Ramah, that's a good practice al pi kabbalas. If a person wants to be noeg to bench ala kos, better, and he's on his own eating it, he hasn't got a zimun, better just to leave it out in front of him rather than actually hold it. Okay, we'll see more about that in the Mishnah Berurah. Says the Mishnah Berurah Sif Kotzen Hay. So the mechaber had said that it's dafka kos birchas hamazon is dafka wine and not just drinks that you'll have during the meal. Kamola in Kiddush v'Havdalah. In the same way, for Kiddush v'Havdalah, the Eina al Shah Mashkin, you can't just make it on other drinks. When these drinks are not chamar medina. Afilu kava sudasa, Rotzalema. Sheteicha suda somach al mashkazu. During the meal, this was your drink. That doesn't elevate it, make it important enough that you can now say Birchas Hamazon on this drink. Because it's not the regular Chamar Medina, it doesn't have that elevated status. Ein yain motzu, says Mishbur Zayin. Afilu nimtze yain be'ir, el she'ein motzu harbe. It's just not very prevalent. Mipnei zeh ikashtias b'nei ho'er hu sheicha o sham mashkin. You can get hold of wine, but that's not the ikka drink, and therefore yesh lahakol levarich birchas hamazon ala sheicha, and therefore you're allowed to be makel to make a birchas hamazon ala sheichar. Even though you don't have to run to the store to buy it, if you've got wine at home, you should certainly use that over any other Chamar Medina. But in that place, you have to go to, if you're in Golders Green, you have to go to Edgware to go find some wine. This is going on the Mechaba still. So if you've got a sheikhar or something like that, which is the Chamar Medina, then you could use that instead, but not water. Now, if you've got two different types of liquids, of beverages, sheikhar or meidvash. For example, you've got beer and you've got honey water. Similar. You like one over the other. You like, let's say, beer over meidvash. Which one should you choose? You should choose chaviv, the one which is more preferred to you. So certainly if you were drinking that before benching during the meal, certainly it's better to make a brach on that and not on another liquid, because it's an expression used in the Gemara that your shulchan shouldn't be full and plentiful, and the Rebbeinu Shloim's shulchan should be empty. In other words, if you're drinking that during the meal because that's your preferred thing, don't choose something which is inferior when it comes to benching ala kais. That's only if that drink is Chamar Medina. That it's commonly drunk in that area. If it's only drunk occasionally, after even though it's lemaisa more choshev than the alternative, that is not called Chamar Medina because it's not drunk regularly enough. Because it's like other types of liquids which are not Chamar Medina, v'yain rimonim, all these types of liquids. Okay, chutz min hamayim, says the Mechaber that you cannot, however, use water. Even though that could be the drink that you drink most commonly. Ein mevarchin olav, you don't use it for birchas hamazon. For huadin kvass or meibarsht. Even though lots of people drink these drinks, beetroot drinks, etc. These are not considered more choshev than water, which is interesting because borscht, for some was an absolute delicacy. My wife's grandparents, when they went to Bloom's restaurants, that was preferred over chicken soup. V'tishberi, he calls it Bira Shulchanis. I'm not exactly sure what that is, some sort of beer. Okay, now the Ramah, the Mishnah is going on the Ramah now, and he says what nowadays a lot of people when they bench ala kais, they don't do it on wine, they bench on beer. So he says that's ein limchos. You don't protest against them. Says the Mishnah Berurah Sivkot Yud Aleph. People would bench on beer and not on wine. Even though it hasn't got the more elevated status of Chamar Medina. Because there is wine in that place. If you were kover suda, that was your drink for the meal, after ikayain, then it would be okay to use it, even though there is wine available. You can be makel in a situation where wine is going to be expensive to use some other drink. Sif Cotton Yud Gimel. What's that going on? If the wine is expensive, to have it for each meal is going to be expensive. However, in contrast to Birchas Hamazon, when it comes to Kiddush and to Havdalah, one should, of course, make effort to buy wine. It's just that it's available, it's just that it's expensive. So one has to push oneself for Kiddush and for Havdalah, but not for Birchas Hamazon. Liknos yain b'chol suda, aval im yesh yain bebeso tzarich levarich olav, you need to make a bracha on it. V'im yesh yain bebeso rak ma'at, letzarich kiddush v'avdalah, ein tzarich levarich olav. You only got a little bit of wine left, and you've got a choice. Do I use it for kiddush, or for havdalah, or for birchas hamazon? Then kiddush and havdalah come first. The kiddush v'avdalah lekula almaton kais for chomer and birchas hamazon, because they need a kais, and it's more chomer than birchas hamazon. Okay, and the Ramah just said at the end, if you remember, we said that, to summarize, there were 3 opinions brought in Sif Aleph. The Mechaber says that you need to spend salakos 1 person, 3 people, and the 3rd opinion is that even 3 doesn't really need it, but mitzvah min hamufcha. If, however, you opt for the first opinion, that you're going to bench a yochid, then don't hold it, but rather leave it on the table in front of you. The Ramah says, Al pi Kabbalah. So what's this about? So Mishnah Berurah says in Sif Kotten Tezvav, Shelo le'achos, those who are particular and bench ala kos, who lot says today they're rishayna shebesif aleph. That's to fulfill the first opinion that I just mentioned in Sif Aleph. For the gamba yochiton kos, that even an individual needs a kos. For rak the hamihazoya mashma, from the Zohar, it seems to imply the yochid lo yivarech ala kos, that a yochid should not bench ala kos. V'al kein mevarchin. Therefore, those who want to be machmir for the first shitta of the mechaber, you do it. However, ve'ein oichsim biyodam, don't hold the kos with your hand, or bazeh yotzim midei, because then you've sort of yotz all opinions. Da'afilu ha'omrim te'una kos, because even if you hold it does require a kos. Harakos lefonav ala shulchan. So good, so I've got a kos in front of me. Va'achizasa ein el mitzvah namuvcha l'dirakol, and the achiza is not markev. That's just the mitzvah namuvcha. The nochen minag zeh, and that's the noch, and that's the right thing to do. Ratzalema to mashein kain mashein oichsno sabiyadayim, i.e. that which if you're doing it biyochid biyachidus, not to actually hold the case for chanal, like we just explained. Uchayim, and nowadays minag ha'olam she'ein mevarchin ala kos klal biyochid, like he said before, that we do not bench ala kos if you're biyachidus, but if you are 3, then mitzvah min hamufcha to try and do so. Okay, we'll leave it there.